Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy A05 and see how this particular Samsung phone holds up in basically 2024. I haven't even done a review of this thing yet. Now, here's the thing I will definitely tell you, right? I think the Samsung Galaxy A05 is a very, very interesting phone. I think this phone is a good device if you're looking at a super cheap kind of budget phone. These are typically Samsung's cheapest offerings that they make, their AO series. And I think they can be really good phones in some ways, but when it comes down to buying a phone like this and or buying a used older flagship phone, I think in most ways, a used older flagship phone would probably make the most amount of sense in my personal opinion. But I do want to go and, just kind of give this one the benefit of the doubt here and there and kind of see which one is the better one between them. So if you want to pick up this phone or some other phones I'd recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of this particular phone, on the outside of this device, on the front side, you're getting a 6.7-inch PLS LCD panel. Now, the thing with this particular device panel is that I think it looks pretty good for the most part for a super cheap phone. It's 720p, but think about it. This is a PLS LCD panel. It's 720p and it's 6.7 inches. That's not going to be that great of a panel. The pixels per inch are going to be very, very slim. And that is somewhat of the problem that you're going to be experiencing with this type of phone because the panel itself just doesn't look that great. You could give me a Samsung Galaxy S, and this phone just came out, 2023, like a year ago. You could give me a Samsung Galaxy S7 and that one would probably have a better display than this thing, to be honest. So that is somewhat of the problem that we're going to be experiencing with this type of phone. It's not the biggest deal in the world. It's not the end of the world or anything, but that is without a doubt going to be one thing you're going to be noticing. Now, it's primarily built out of plastic for the most part. There's not really like anything else super insane going on here that we haven't already seen before. So that might be one other area to kind of think about with this phone as well. The fact that it isn't going to be like this super great feeling phone. However, it does have a USB Type-C port, which is nice. And it actually does have a micro SD card slot, which is also a very nice thing going on for this type of phone too. So the fact that it has that kind of stuff is actually very, very cool to me. Now on the backside, you're getting this I don't know how to describe it. It's a plastic back, but it's kind of like a different type of material, which does feel kind of nice. So that is kind of a nice thing going on for this type of phone right there. And you're also maintaining things like a big display, kind of like an Infinity U display, which is kind of nice. But there's not really anything else super insane going on here. I would hate for you to go through and purchase this type of phone and think it's a great value for the price, because there's definitely better phones you can buy that are going to be giving you better value per dollars rather than this device. So definitely kind of keep that in mind when it kind of comes down to it. On top of that though, when it comes down to the price tag, this phone right now, you could probably buy for less than $80 in a lot of places. This phone already in the brand new market wasn't even that expensive, but also nowadays it's also going to be much, much cheaper because it's already been out for a little bit of time. So that might be another big area to kind of think about with this device as well. So you're definitely going to be getting a device that is going to be significantly cheaper, than a lot of other devices out there. But does that cheap price end up meaning that you should go and buy this phone? Not quite. Like I said before, there's definitely way better devices out there to go and pick up. And I definitely would say if you're planning on going through and picking up a device, it does make a lot more sense, in my personal opinion, to go ahead and buy a device like an older flagship. You can even buy a 3-year-old Samsung flagship, like a S series, and get a better device than the current AO series, in my personal opinion. So that right there is just another one of those things to kind of keep in mind if you're going through and picking up one of these types of devices. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the camera side, you're getting a dual camera setup on the back side, and you're getting basically a single camera setup on the front side, as you probably would have expected. Now, here's the thing, right? You could probably think that this camera is not going to be that great, and you would probably be 100% right. The thing with these cameras, and I don't want to hate on this phone too much, because you do have to think about it from a price per value standpoint. This thing's not supposed to be competing with the main flagships of this day and age. But if you are going to go through and pick up a device, you have to think about it with this type of phone, the 50 megapixel wide and 2 megapixel depth camera, it's really not going to be that great of a lens. From the price tag standpoint, like I said before, that might be an advantage here and there, but this is not going to necessarily be a good priced phone, for a camera standpoint. 1080p at 60 frames per second, I think, on the backside. That in and of itself is kind of a little bit of a downside here as well. So if you're going to go through and like pick up a device, you have to remember that these types of devices aren't necessarily going to be like the top of the top when it comes down to it. And that in and of itself is going to kind of be the problem if you're going to go through and pick up one of these types of devices, right? Like you probably want to go through and get a device that's going to be giving you a better experience. And this type of camera just isn't really going to be giving you that. So I don't want to hate on this phone, too much from that standpoint, but it's really not going to be that great of an experience. And once again, that's just one of those things you're going to have to kind of think about when it comes down to this type of device. So from that right there, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here is with the software longevity. So typically speaking, I'm not really 100% too sure how long these types of AO phones are going to last, but one thing is for sure, these types of phones aren't necessarily going to be lasting like an insane amount of time. They're probably going to be lasting for a couple of years here and there, maybe like a year or two, but they're not necessarily going to be these like super long lasting devices, compared to like the S series. So once again, I just kind of want to get that out of the way too. I would hate for you to go ahead and buy a phone like this and then not have it last as long as you wanted it to. So once again, just one of those things to keep in mind. However, the battery size on this thing is actually pretty impressive. Like the battery life on the Galaxy A series tend to be pretty good because they're mostly underpowered, but they're also still giving you a lot of power. They're still giving you like a really good battery size inside of it, which has always been surprising to me. So that 5,000 milliamp hour battery inside is very, very impressive. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate well into, the performance of the whole entire phone, but from a battery life perspective, I really, really do like having a phone like this that's going to be giving you a significantly better battery life than you probably would have expected. So I think that right there is like another super important thing to keep in mind when it comes down to it as well. Now, on top of that, another very important thing to keep in mind here too is that with a device like the Samsung Galaxy A05, you're also going to be getting that MediaTek Helio G85 chipset with 4 or 6 gigabytes of RAM. And basically for the most part, if you are going to go through and get a device, this type of device isn't really going to be like the best in the world. It's not going to be that great of a performing device, but I think it's going to be it's going to be good. It's going to be like okay for the price tag. I think that's the best way to describe it. So once again, if you are going to go through and pick up a device, you have to keep in mind that these types of devices really aren't going to be that great, right? They're going to be pretty basic. And I think once again, that's another very important thing to keep in mind here. So what I would probably tell you from a performance perspective, this is going to be a phone that is definitely going to, work and is going to be able to do things for the most part. But I would probably tell you that in my opinion, it's not really going to be that great of a device from a performance perspective, and I think everyone probably knows that by now. So overall, what I definitely will tell you is that with a device like the Samsung Galaxy A05, I just don't think this is a phone I'd recommend people to buy necessarily. I think there are way better phones out there to go and pick up rather than this thing. I think phones like the Samsung Galaxy S21 from a couple of years ago is a better thing than this thing. I think a phone like the Samsung Galaxy A54, like those types of phones I think are better than this one. I think this is an okay phone for the price, but if you can even spend maybe like $50 more, you can get a significantly better device when it comes down to it. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.